What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. I am your co-host, Chris, back finally after a 1-week hiatus, but I am joined by the two titans of the business, Jurgen and Dame. Fellas, what is up?
Nothing much.
What up? Good.
Yeah.
All right. I mean,
we appreciate the compliment.
all right. I mean, yeah. But in my 1 week off, a bunch of shit has happened. But more importantly, actually in one day, I think in one day shit has happened more than in 1 week.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Pretty
if I'm
accurate.
clear enough.
That's pretty
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah. Fortunately, we have NBA news because that's what we like to do here. We like to discuss about NBA stuff, and we have important football playoff games coming up this weekend that we're going to talk about, and we're going to predict the winners, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I'm pretty sure next week we'll talk about NFL hirings in terms of coaching wise. But for now, we're just going to talk about the NBA as a blockbuster trade happened, and then we'll talk about the AFC and the NFC. What is the first round?
Divisional, yeah.
Divisional, okay. Yeah, so let's start things off with the blockbuster trade that happened. Fellas, NBA is the best when it comes to this. A 4-team trade blockbuster occurred. And I'm going to go through all the details, so bear with me. We got the Rockets, the Nets, the Pacers, and the Cavs in one deal. The Brooklyn Nets finally acquired James Harden. The Houston Rockets acquired Victor Oladipo, Kurucs, Dante Exum, 4 first-round picks, 4 first-round swaps. The Pacers acquired Karis LeVert and a 2023 second-round pick from Houston. And the Cavaliers acquired Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. Now, guys, I think the most important thing here was the Nets obviously got James Harden, and then the Rockets obviously got rid of James Harden, and of course, the Rockets got a massive haul, and basically the Nets kind of sacrificed their whole future for James Harden. But then I think the Pacers and the Cavaliers' involvement in this is pretty interesting, and I think they're both winners, quote unquote. I think the Cavs are more so winners than the Pacers in terms of just the outside teams looking in, because they got a young talent in a position that they kind of need, based on like what will happen with Drummond. We don't know, but still. All right, you guys want to talk about the Pacers and the Cavs first, kind of landing these like side pieces, and then we'll lead up to the Nets and Rockets?
Yeah, really quick.
Yeah, so let me just brush off my thoughts, and you guys can go into it. Pacers got rid of Oladipo. I didn't buy for 1 second that Oladipo was going to stay with them long term. I don't think they wanted to re-sign him long term. The uncertainty of the injury, plus Oladipo's like kind of suspect about wanting to stay there, and then there's always reports of him telling teams that he wants to like go there. So they got off his contract, but they get like a piece in return in Karis LeVert, who's on a team-friendly contract. I don't know. I think they didn't necessarily get better, but if you're gonna lose Oladipo, you might as well get an asset back. So good for them. I don't have much to say about them. They kind of stayed the same. They're in the same boat, because now I like to see what kind of Karis LeVert could do as a primary offensive option. We'll see. And for the Cavs, you get Jared Allen. This was out of nowhere, in my opinion. I did not think the Cavs would swoop in.
Right.
I thought Jared Allen would go to the Rockets, but turns out Cavs take him. Good for them. They basically give up nothing, like a protected Milwaukee pick, I think, for Jared Allen. They get a very young centerpiece that they could add to their young core in Darius Garland and Colin Sexton and Isaac Okoro and Kevin Porter Jr., if, whenever he comes back. So I thought that was a huge grand slam for them. They have, I think, it's not the greatest young core, but it's a legitimate young core that they could build on, so good for them, good for the Cavs. But yeah, that's all I got to say about those two teams.
This was honestly one of the first trades ever that I just see everyone as a winner, and it's really rare because it's a 4-team trade, and you can see how with the Pacers and Cavs. The Pacers, there's always just been that problem with Oladipo, the trade rumors. Like, he came out and said they didn't want to be traded, but he low-key, you could just know that he didn't want to be there. And on an expiring deal, when they're not going to re-sign him to that max, you get a guy like Karis LeVert, who, maybe he's not as good as Oladipo. He hasn't proven himself like Oladipo has in this league, but I don't think he's far off from Oladipo's talent, and he definitely has the potential to be just as good, if not better, as well. So you got Karis LeVert, who I'm pretty sure he has more control than Oladipo does going forward. So you win with that. You get a second round pick, which is whatever, but it's something. And then with the Cavs, like the only problem I have with the Cavs in this trade, even though regardless getting Jared Allen is a win, is that they just have too many bigs. They have Kevin Love, Nance, Drummond, and now Allen. I'm sure they're gonna trade Drummond. I read that report that it's expected that they're gonna move Drummond by the deadline. So it's good to have Allen there, but overall for both teams, I see it as a win. It's just the only thing I didn't like for the Cavs is that they just added another big. But we'll see what they get for Drummond. That could help them out.
Right, right. I think the first round draft pick that Cleveland gave up here, I think they have a chance to kind of recoup that value because Andre Drummond has played really, really well for them this season. Like a guy who a year ago was traded for absolutely nothing by the Detroit Pistons to the Cavs. The Cavs could really get a lot back for Drummond because of how well he's played in Cleveland. Like they had to trade a second round pick and like a couple, throwaways for Drummond. They potentially, if they can convince a team, could get a first, at least a protected first back, which you got to give a lot of credit to the organization there to recoup a player's value that much. The Cavs and Pacers. Once the Harden stuff began to really take form early yesterday, and I think like late the day before as well. I think it was a common thread that a lot of people believe that a third team was at least going to get involved because Houston wasn't going to take on every single player that they were going to get back. And the fact that it became a 4-team deal, I think the Pacers, arguably a very low-key winner. I think if you want to talk about a low-key move, they made a really great low-key move that they can say they're winners from because while Oladipo is a good player, like you mentioned off the top, Chris, a slight concern still about the injury. He's not 100% back yet from that injury and the uncertainty of him resigning. I think Karis LeVert is a great pickup. I just think his game is going to mold well with Brogdon because they're both non-ball dominant players. They don't need a high usage rate to be effective. Especially LeVert, he can be the spot up and shoot kind of guy. And with how Sabonis has played this year, like those three guys, I'm really going to be interested to see how the Pacers play off, how the three of them play off in the Pacers offense this year. So that'll be good. And Cleveland, nice little move, gives them flexibility for when they need to trade Drummond. And Jared Allen is a good player. He's not going to demand such a massive contract too. So, a yearly saving as well, potentially, depending on what they sign him to, if they quote unquote, overvalue him based off the market, that's their decision. Obviously, I'm not going to kill them for it because I actually like Jared Allen, but those two teams for coming into this deal, it feels like last minute and being a part of a trade for a superstar, they made out like gangbusters in this. Like Dame said, you can argue all 4 teams won in this deal, which I don't know if there's ever been a 4-team deal where we could say that about.
Yeah, and to kind of rebound off what Damon said, I get your point with like a lot of big men, but the thing is, most of their big men aren't they're not core pieces, like they're not sustainable. I feel like Drummond's gonna be gone. Kevin Love, I think, will eventually be gone. I don't know how or where when you trade him, but like Jared Allen, I think, is their foundation core. That's why I kind of see it as a W for them. Larry Nance, I think he's very whatever. No disrespect to him, of course, but like Jared Allen is, I think, they're going to be their main big man going forward. Whereas I think everyone else is on kind of borrowed time, so that's why I didn't think low of it as much as you did. But yeah. Moving on to the main players of this trade. Harden to the Nets. Well, let's talk about the Rockets first, and let's talk about the haul they got. So I thought leading up to it, I thought it was gonna be Philly. I thought Simmons and Maxey would have gotten it done, and I thought Harden was going to Philly. But I believe they had. I think they had an agreement with Indiana. That's why they made the deal with Brooklyn. If they got LeVert, then they could trade with Indiana, and therefore they get Oladipo. So that's why I think they eventually made the trade with Brooklyn. But the Rockets get Victor Oladipo, Kurucs, very whatever, Dante Exum, I think is a good pickup. He's unexpiring though, and then of course the first round picks, unprotected in the first round swaps. The first 2 of the 4 first round picks, they're very because the Brooklyn Nets are going to be a high caliber team. It's after that though that makes it interesting. So, and the fact that they're unprotected, I think this is the best haul they could have gotten in terms of draft capital because I've never seen anything like this. This is technically like 8 if you just combine everything in total. Oladipo, you could pair him up with Wall in the backcourt, but I think Fertitta being very suspect in terms of like how he wants to operate financially, everyone's kind of like on an expiring deal. So you get quality players, especially Oladipo. I mean, you get a quality player in Oladipo, but then again, there's also the option of just kind of starting fresh and just having a bunch of cap space. So I don't know. I think the draft capital is kind of what turned them on, but in terms of like maybe trying to get the best talent available, I would have gone Simmons, but who knows? I think Fertitta's kind of thinking about everything here, so that's why he made the move. What do you guys think about the Rockets deal? Do you think they got the best they could have, the best deal possible, or you think they could have gotten more?
I think it really depends on which direction they're trying to go in. Based off this deal, it seems to me that they're trying to not maybe go full rebuild, but kind of enter into that stage. Because if they really wanted to say not maybe build a contender this season, but going forward, they would have went with a package around Ben Simmons because he's a star and he has unlimited potential in this league. But based on the direction that I see them trying to go in, which is rebuilding and getting younger, I think this was an A+ deal for them. They got Victor Oladipo, who for now could make them uh, a good team. Dante Exum, yes, he's a young talent. Maybe they could resign him if they like what they see from him. And then all these draft picks, of course, which you've never seen besides maybe the Paul George deal, which is a lot. Just for the Rockets in general, I just like it going forward for them. They're gonna have a lot of draft picks going forward. They got draft picks they got another first from the Wizards. I remember that for Westbrook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's another one. So I like where they're going forward with all these draft picks. Of course, if I was the Rockets and I want to stay competitive going forward and build around like one player, I would have went with the Ben Simmons deal. But it seems to me like after this season, with all these expiring deals, they're going to go into a full rebuild.
Right. I think part of the thing, and especially when I heard that Philly was now willing to put Ben Simmons in the deal, that kind of turned some heads. That I honestly thought at that point it's like, okay, Philly, that seems to be the attracting offer. But I think they went with just the treasure chest of first round picks there because, and I think Chris, you make the best point. Like these first couple of picks, that's not where the value is. The value is going to be all the pick swaps later on, where if the worst case scenario happens for the Brooklyn Nets and they don't win a championship and these guys leave early, those picks are going to become so valuable for Houston. Like those are going to become lottery picks. So at least in theory, they could become lottery picks. They have that. And not only that, I think this is kind of an underrated thing. And we've seen this the last few years, guys that we always said had unmovable contracts. Chris Paul had an unmovable deal. They got him sent to OKC, and OKC built up his value. They got him sent to Phoenix and got a first, or I believe, back in that deal. Westbrook was quote unquote untradeable, but they were able to get him off the team on the right deal, getting back John Wall's contract. If John Wall plays really well this year, they can use one of these early Nets first round picks as a sweetener to get his contract off the books next year. And with Oladipo, they could still trade him later on in the season because, this is obviously for a topic for another time. We have no idea what's going to happen with the NBA season. Will the NBA season take a break potentially because of all the COVID cases happening? The post All-Star break schedule, there are no set games for a reason. Like the Rockets could still even trade Oladipo later on in this season after a certain amount of time. Like Houston 100% pushed their chips on the very, very much so in the future side of things here because Ben Simmons, I think I would have been very tempted to take that as a guy to build around for a decade, but they clearly went with the idea of we're just going to bank on making picks for the next decade, essentially, from another team and try to build up the roster slowly over time that way. And do all those picks get used? Maybe. Do those picks eventually get used in another massive deal 3-4 years from now? Maybe. Like, we just don't know. And I think that's what Houston wanted at the end of the day. They wanted the long-term flexibility to decide their future at any point.
Yeah. I mean, no better way to do that than just like copying a team's future essentially. The Nets are, man. All right, well, let's move on to the Nets because this is coming from someone that hopes this doesn't work out for the Nets. So yeah, the Nets finally get James Harden. there's always that question, like, do you make the move for that superstar? And like in terms of just like giving up everything you could possibly give up for, you do it. You eventually do it. And the Nets, I think, were borderline finals contention, maybe like they were borderline conference finals. And with Spencer Dinwiddie gone, and who knows what's going on with Kyrie Irving, I think they just had to. So yeah, they finally get James Harden. Look, I'm there's the possibility that this doesn't work out because there's three ball dominant players on one team, and there's also the addition of just the uncertainty of Kyrie Irving. My hope is that as a Knicks fan, this doesn't work out, and just because I just think these are three players that are just infuriating to me in terms of just how they handle themselves and how they carry themselves, and just scum to me, these three stars. So I hope it doesn't work out. Unfortunately, there's too much offensive firepower for this not to work out, and I think it's going to take them to the finals. With Harden, I think at first it's going to be a little shaky, but I think Harden has the ability to kind of play off ball. It's going to be up to him to kind of make that sacrifice, but I think with Kevin Durant there, I think he'll like kind of make that sacrifice because those two have a relationship. I think the odd man out here is Kyrie Irving because you don't know how he's going to react in terms of just like playing style change, and because he's someone that kind of needs the ball. Kyrie isn't the best off ball.
Right.
It's going to be a major adjustment for him. That's what I think in terms of just how three of them are going to like pan out. The Kyrie stuff, we could talk about that after you guys kind of, add your thoughts into the James Harden addition to the Nets. So, but just to finalize what I think, this is going to put them over the top and eventually bring them to the finals. I don't know if it's going to win them a championship. I hope not, but they're definitely finals bound, to me at least, sadly.
Right. The offensive firepower they got in this deal, I think we can all agree that this definitely propels them to at least at very minimum the finals favorites in the East come playoff time, no matter what. It's just I'm kind of on your side to an extent on the whole will this work out. I think a lot of people are so quick to try to crown them the de facto Eastern Conference and even some NBA champions. Like losing Jared Allen is a thing I don't think a lot of people understand. A highway to the lane just opened up. Like, of course, the offensive talent is great, but I kind of liken this to what I've said about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Of course, not as much star power on that team, but like it's awesome if you can score 130 points per game. But if you're going to be letting up 150 a game, does that really matter that you could score that much? Because Kevin Durant is great, but he's still coming off like whether we want to, we're all happy and hyped up that KD's back, but let's be real here. His defense is not going to be the same after that injury, no matter what. His offense may be there, but his defense will never be the same. Harden, do I really need to say much about his defense? And Kyrie at the moment, where is he? Like, and even on the court, like there's no difference right now in the defense he is providing, whether he's with the team now or even when he returns. Like he's not like this team's defense is going to be so questionable that I have to see them play with one another in playoff games to see how this will shake out. Like it doesn't like we can make all these predictions and all that, but until the three of them step on the court in a playoff game, to me that's the key thing. And I'll let Dame take over from here. Like I think the regular season they'll be fine. The regular season they'll be golden. They'll be guns blazing. They'll figure it out here and there. But come playoff time, when guys want their shots, when guys need their shots and all that, like this is going to be an issue. And I think Chris, I like your point. I think KD will be the one most likely willing to kind of take the back seat here and there because I think he can. I think his game is most suited. The Kyrie James Harden thing is very fascinating to me. And like I said, I'll let Dame handle that one. But like I just think it's fascinating to see how that could somehow work.
So yeah, you guys both made good points. Clearly this was an all-in move for the Nets. It was for this year and next year. Clearly they're going all in. They give up their entire future just for James Harden. Whether it's because they think he gives them the best chance of winning, or whether it was to make KD happy, or whether it was to as an insurance policy to Kyrie Irving. They went all in. They had to give up all these draft picks and all these players. Clearly. What it means for them going forward, like you said, I think the biggest thing is the James Harden and Kyrie part of it. I think KD will be just fine if Harden and Kyrie go get theirs. Like he'll be fine just winning games and scoring and doing what he needs to do. but the biggest part will be Kyrie and James Harden because they both literally need the ball. I haven't seen them play off the ball in probably their entire career. Yeah, James Harden, OKC, but James Harden, OKC, and James Harden now are completely two different players, play style, everything. They're completely two different players, so it's gonna be interesting to see there. Yeah, I would put them at the top of the Eastern Conference right now to make them the favorites, but I don't think it's a lock that they win the Eastern Conference or even win the finals. The Bucks, I still think they give them a run. The Heat and the Celtics, I think, will all give them a run for their money because of their defense. Clearly the Nets aren't a good defensive team. They give up their best defender in Jared Allen. DeAndre Jordan's an old man. Kevin Durant's their only really good defender that you can say. But yeah, like you guys said, he's coming off his Achilles injury, so he's not even the same. So guards that James Harden and Kyrie Irving are guarding, if Kyrie even comes back, are going to have field days on them. They're going to need to score 140 points a game to win games. Jerry made a good point. Like the regular season, I'm sure they're gonna be guns blazing. They're gonna be very exciting. They're gonna go on long winning streaks. They're gonna be putting up massive numbers. But when it comes to the playoffs and the regular season are two different games. The playoffs are really you need to play defense in the playoffs. I read a stat or heard it on one of the debate shows that there hasn't been an NBA team that hasn't been top 5 in defense to win a championship in a really long time. And do I think this Nets team is going to be top 5 in defense? No, I do not. So that's going to be interesting to see. But like I said, the playoffs are completely different. It really slows down the pace of the game. You really need to play defense. So I think those two things really go against the Nets and their advantage and their kind of team that they have. But it's going to be interesting to see how this works out.
Yeah, so I mean, I hear you guys. They're going to be putrid defensively, but the reason why I could see this working out, I mean, it's just, and you can't forget they also have Joe Harris, so and that's a huge part of it. So it's just, and I think when it comes to the playoffs, we know about the James Harden stories in the playoffs. Now he kind of has two offensive superstars. Kyrie's not a superstar, but he's an offensive superstar. If you guys pick up what I'm putting down, to kind of fall back on just in case he gets gassed, which he always usually does when playoff time comes. That's why I think they'll be eventually fine. Um, yeah, I don't trust DeAndre Jordan to be the defensive anchor that this team needs. But yeah, this team is gonna rely on just outscoring their opponent. I would love to see how this team is gonna fare against the Milwaukee Bucks of the world and the Philadelphia 76ers. Boston, I'm not concerned about. They're gonna beat Boston with no problem. I don't know. I hear what you guys are saying, but I just think the offensive powers are just way too elite. But again, like the argument I made, it was James Harden in the playoffs. He could fall back on these two. Now Kevin Durant could kind of fall back. Kevin Durant doesn't necessarily need to do as much on the offensive end now that he has Kyrie and kind of James Harden, right? So maybe that could lead to him kind of conserving his energy to focus more on the defensive end. I wouldn't put too much stock in that, but there's always that option now. But you're right, Dame. You need to play defense in the playoffs. I think it's more of a half court game in the playoffs. So we'll see. We'll see. But that leads us to the X factor in this, Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie Irving has been kind of MIA, to say the least. He'll eventually be back.
We think.
Yeah, we think. I hope not. Maybe he'll retire. If he retires, I wouldn't lose a second of sleep towards it. But I think he's gonna dictate whether or not this trade is gonna be successful, because it's up to Kyrie to make that kind of sacrifice. Because while I do think KD is the best player, obviously, on this team, and the team kind of runs through him, it's Kyrie that kind of possibly, he's the one that could kind of shift directions, technically, because he's such a headache off the court, and he could kind of stir trouble. So I think it's kind of up to him to kind of balance out this team's, focus, if you will. I think they have the key pieces in terms of making it work on the court. But it's just as important off the court, just to see how everyone kind of bounces out and how much they're gonna lock in. What do you guys think about the whole Kyrie thing and how this is gonna work out?
I need someone to explain
honestly,
it to me.
Who knows?
Okay, so here's my thing. I at first, when it was kind of coming out that the idea of him sitting a game or two here was because the effects that happened in the Capitol really bugged him. I fully understand that. I truly do. Because we kind of saw it, in a different sport here. Maya Moore sat out the entire previous WNBA season for social justice work. And I have no issue with athletes being vocal. I have been a big proponent of it, very much so, to see more athletes speak out. They deserve a lot more credit than they do. A lot of athletes and coaches, they're a lot smarter in the real world than a lot of people want to give them credit for. Just because they make millions of dollars doesn't mean that they can't have an opinion and some of them be educated. But as it continued and it continued, I heard less about that. And then the whole, I think it's been confirmed at this point, there's on a cell phone recording, him at a birthday party. I think it's at his sister's, or maybe
Yeah.
at least someone close to him. Yeah,
Yeah.
his sister's birthday, without a mask on. Like, and then the whole Zoom call thing 30 minutes before the tip off of a game. I'm not going to get too much in on that. Like, if he's not playing, go ahead, be on the Zoom call. I don't care about that. But it just feels like he hasn't communicated with the Nets at all properly. Like, some people are trying to make excuses for it. Like, and I understand the whole argument. Like, I can kind of understand this. I've heard some friends of mine say that, well, professional sports is completely different from a regular job. I kind of get that, but you still need to have communication with the team. Like, this is what is mind-boggling. Some people are trying to give him a pass for not at least telling the team, look, this has kind of affected me. I need to take a week or two off. We would, as much as a lot of people like to say, a lot of us harp on Kyrie too much. I think we would all respect it if he would have came out right away and said, look, I need at least a week or two off. Like, okay, there. But now this, like, is it even about I don't want to question him, but is it about Capitol Hill anymore when you're out here partying with your friends, when you're going on these random Zoom calls? Like, come on, dude. Like, let the team know. Legitimately, the Nets had no clue. The Nets didn't know that it was going to be, like, to this level. It's, like, it's ridiculous. I have never pulled punches. I'm not the biggest Kyrie Irving fan, but it's never been for off-the-court stuff like this. And now that he's adding all this off the court stuff, like, dude, what are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? Like Stephen A. Said, you got to go all in with the social justice stuff. If it really concerns you that much, you're gonna miss this much time. Be done for the season. Go make a deal out of it. Go make a change. But if you're still gonna technically be with the team, but you just don't want to show up to work, and he's almost using the whole social issues to get out of it. Like, come on, dude. Like, I'm not saying he's doing that, but on the surface, it looks like it, and that just bothers me. Like, it irks me to no end what he's doing.
No, I know. Like, the thing, I don't even know what's going on with this guy, but like you said, like, he don't get me wrong, like, he's done great things with social issues, and for the WABA, he's done a lot of good things. Like, he does
He
a lot of
has,
good
yeah.
things off the court, but you need to. He's in an NBA basketball. This is his job. Like, I
Yeah.
get it. Basketball is, like, you can see it as a hobby, but this is what he gets paid for. The money he gets to use for these social justice issues, he gets from playing basketball for the Brooklyn Nets and from all these people that watch it on TV and obviously eventually go in person to see it. But that's how he gets paid. That's how he gets the money to use for these social justice issues. He can't just disappear off the map, off the grid, and not tell anybody anything. Like, nobody, KD doesn't know, the team doesn't know, Steve Nash doesn't know. Nobody knows anything about where he is, what he's doing.
And get
Like
paid
you
for
said,
this, by the way. Like,
exactly.
they're not taking money from him. Like, this is the part that's
Exactly.
boggling my mind. Like, he's essentially doing all this on the Nets' dime and not doing anything on the court.
Exactly, and just it's crazy that he's doing this. Like, if you need to take a couple weeks off, or how many times, even if you say, I don't know when I'm gonna come back, but I just need time to myself. Whatever he needs to do, he needs to communicate that with his team and just let them know. He can't leave them in the dust and have them questioning where he's doing, where he is, because reporters are asking and nobody knows the answer because he doesn't want to give anybody the answer. So it's kind of mind-boggling to me that he would do that. And based on the social justice issues, I think he's better off when he has a voice, whether it's before games, before games or after games, during press conferences. Like, his main platform is there. That's when the most people are watching him. That's when he can talk about this kind of stuff. That's what other athletes do. Seen Donovan Mitchell do it. Seen LeBron do it. Seen all these different athletes talk about social justice issues before and after games,
Yeah,
when they have the most eyes on them and they have the biggest voice, because that's when people watch and listen. when you're off the map and off the grid and no one knows where you are, you don't really make that big of an impact as you would if people are watching you and listening to you.
Yeah, and
So
breaking COVID protocol. Like,
exactly. So that to me is crazy, but who knows?
So now I'm gonna give my take on this, and I'm gonna try to be as level-headed as possible.
all you, Chris. Hey, clear out. Chris is taking the ball.
Because I agree with both of you. I think Kyrie has done a spectacular job in terms of dealing with social justice issues. You know, he has done a lot, and no one's taking away from him in terms of that. You know, that aspect of the world. He has done an incredible job. Phenomenal, especially during these times. For him to use his platform, props to him, man. You know, but doesn't it suck when like you're doing something that great, but it's the people aren't fully focusing on that because of your other antics? Like, I don't know if he understands that. Like, people should be praising Kyrie for all that he's done in terms of the social injustice issues, but because they're looking at the other drama that he's kind of causing, it kind of negates away from that perspective. I feel bad for Steve Nash. I don't really feel bad for the Nets organization because this is the baggage that comes with the baggage that comes with signing Kyrie. They knew what they were getting into. And the thing is, they gave him all that he wanted. They don't have a coach. Steve Nash, he's the quote unquote coach, but there's not really a coach. You know, it's KD and Kyrie kind of calling the shots. We all know that. We're not dumb, right? You have Mike D'Antoni. You just traded for James Harden. I don't know how much of a say he's had on that, but it's basically his and KD's team. They gave him the organization, and now the blatant disrespect this dude has, just not communicating. Look, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but Steve Nash has basically said, he's like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on. KD's not gonna say anything because that's his boy. And like, they have problems with the media, so they're just gonna stay shut about it, or they're gonna give you some half-ass answers. So there's that. He the things with Kyrie, man, is that he thinks he's larger than basketball, dog. Like, he's not larger than this sport, dude. I'm telling you, if Kyrie retires tomorrow, I don't think people are gonna like lose an ounce of sleep. No one's
No.
gonna, no one's gonna care as much, bro. Yeah, sure, we'll maybe miss like your cool plays here and there. I'm not going to care. I don't think anyone's going to care besides quote unquote Nets fans. They're not really Nets fans, let's be honest. No one's going to give a shit, bro. There are two players in the NBA, in my opinion, that are bigger than the actual sport. It's LeBron James and it's Steph Curry,
Yeah.
right? Kyrie is not that guy. I don't know where this came from, but it's really pissing me off. It's like, obviously, like, post LeBron, he's been acting weird and shit. He found spirituality, he found philosophy. Thinks he's smarter than everyone. I don't understand, man. I want to like Kyrie. He looks like a very chill dude. He said it that, basketball isn't the most important thing in the world. And right. I mean, sure, it's not. It's definitely not, especially to these players, especially during these times, it's not. But then it's just like, I don't know where his head's at, because this is your job. Like you guys said, it's your job, man. And I don't know. This job gave you a platform, it gives you a voice to talk about these social issues, and this platform allows other people to listen to you because you're that guy because of this platform. You're the guy because of this platform. I love Kyrie, but because of the NBA, people are going to know you more, right? And because of that, people are going to listen to like what you have to say. So, I don't know. He is kind of far gone in terms of just like where his head's at. He's like kind of lost touch with the reality.
Right.
Like this retirement thing, it's not gonna happen. He's not gonna retire, bro. Obviously not. He's 3 years left. He's got a bunch of money that he's gonna want to make, and money talks eventually because he's losing a lot of money now. I do think like he's gonna like this whole thing with the birthday party maskless. He's gonna probably like skirt around that. He's like, well, I can't appreciate my sister's birthday and this and that. Like, he's going to spin into terms, and Kyrie's not going to be in the wrong. So I expect a very Kyrie response to this, where he's not going to take any accountability.
Yep.
Or he's going to half-ass it, because that's what Kyrie does. The dude's stubborn as hell. It's like, I don't hate Kyrie the person, but just the antics are just so infuriating, bro. So infuriating, man. It's just, I don't know. I don't have much to say about it because we kind of all exhausted it. I mean, do you guys have any other final thoughts on it?
I have one last point, just real quick to kind of I think you slightly alluded to it, Chris. And I think I'll expand on it. Like, I think what Kyrie's doing here, just forget even about him for a second. Like, so many people don't want to hear what the athletes have to say about these social issues. They they assume so many things about these athletes, male or female, basketball, football, etc., just because they play a sport. Now add a guy who says he cares deeply about it, and he has shown it 100%. But now add all the antics he's done. People are going to focus in on these negative antics, and they're going to say because he's trying to focus in on social issues that's the cause for all this, and he's going to screw over other athletes that are going to actually try to push the social issues as well. Because look at Kyrie, he thinks he knows everything. What about this guy who thinks he knows everything? Like, and I hate that I'm saying that, but it's so true. We all see how social media is. We all see how the internet is. We know there are information vacuums, specific pages, groups, etc., think tanks out there that they think a certain way and they will never change. And Kyrie just gives those people ammunition, and that's what gets me the most angry about it. Like, I feel like in a very very unnoticeable way at the moment, he's screwing over his fellow athletes that care about this stuff with what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I agree, bro. I agree. It taints. I mean, I don't like besides like NBA fans. I don't know how much like coverage like Kyrie gets necessarily, but like him doing this dumb shit may taint. This is just like from an outsider's perspective. It may may tarnish the reputation of like a social activist from the sports world. Because I don't know. It's just this shit is he's just mad immature, bro. And like I don't hate Kyrie, but he's an annoying ass like mosquito. But whatever, what do I know? I'm done with it. Do you guys have anything else to add to that?
I'm done.
No.
Yeah, he's not worth the rest of my breath. Now we're done with the NBA news. Let's transition over to NFL. Playoffs started last week. Now we're into the divisional round, and we have some pretty good games, fellas. Now, AFC, we got the Chiefs versus the Browns, and then we have the Bills versus the Ravens. Guys, I'm going to let you guys tackle most of this, but I'm going to just give my convoluted but also minor opinion. Chiefs versus Browns. I love what the media is doing, that they're trying to be like, well, bro, I mean, maybe, I think the Browns kind of like they have a chance. Maybe the Chiefs aren't like their foot's not fully on the gas pedal. Like, bro, let's stop it. I understand that they want to create some buzz towards this, but I see the Chiefs winning this. I think it's playoff time. I think Mahomes is going to turn up. I think the offensive firepower is going to be too much. I think the Browns defense is good, but I don't think it's going to be. I think the Chiefs are going to be more focused and locked in than the Steelers would have been. I don't like.
Yep.
28-0 is just not going to happen, and you're going against the best quarterback in the league. You're not going against Ben Roethlisberger, and that's all I have to say to it. I think there were times in the regular season where the Chiefs were like I personally thought they didn't care as much because it's the regular season, so they're kind of conserving their energy. But there are times where they're just like, like games were kind of quote unquote close, even though some of it was garbage time minutes that kind of like made the scores a little closer. But because shit matters now, I think the Chiefs are going to win this by a landslide. I see a blowout personally. Yeah, I'm not going to give any scores because I'm bad with that, but that's my opinion.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotta say, Chris. Like, well, first off, Chris, we got to give you some credit here. You were the only one of us three that picked the Browns over the Steelers.
Nice.
Last week, and by the way, we all did pretty good. We all went 5-1 with our predictions. So,
Sweet.
Kudos to all of us there. It was good, some good brains on this show. But I agree with you. Like, a lot of people trying to boost up the Browns as much as they can. It's good marketing. ESPN is essentially 24/7 marketing for the sports leagues, especially the NFL. But this ain't even close. The Chiefs care too much about this. Funny fact, because you mentioned what the Browns defense did to Big Ben. Yes, they picked him off 4 times, but they registered 0 sacks. Like, you can't bring 0 sacks to a Kansas City Chiefs game. There are 2 quarterbacks we've seen this year that if you have 0 sacks against them in that game, they're going to tear you apart. And it's Mahomes and it's Rodgers this year. And if they don't bring the pressure to Patrick Mahomes, it's going to be issues because he has Hill, Kelsey, all those weapons. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been practicing, which even if they decide to rest him, by the way, no Helaire, Le'Veon Bell, yeah, I guess you could start this game for us. Sure, go ahead. Like, come on now. There's way too much on firepower on this team that they'll lose to the Browns.
So I do think this is actually going to be a close game. The reason being is because the Browns are coming off a big upset last week, so they're gonna be riding a wave of momentum. And the thing is with the Chiefs, they basically had 2 weeks off. Like week 17, they didn't play any of their starters, and now they had this bye. So because of that, I do think they're gonna start the game real slow. Their offense and their defense is gonna come out a bit rusty, and they're gonna come off a little slow. And the Browns are going to be, like I said, ride that momentum to start the game. Of course, I do have the Chiefs winning this game because I think they're gonna come out in the second half after they wear off all that rust. They're gonna come out with a big second half and they're gonna win this game. But it's gonna be interesting in the first half. Don't be surprised if the Browns come out to an early lead, and a lot of people are gonna start wondering if they're gonna win this game. But lo and behold, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, all those guys, they're gonna come out with a big second half. They're gonna take control of this game and win 30-20 is my prediction. But don't be surprised if they come out with an early lead, the Browns, and scare
Right.
a couple people.
Right. I got 38-24 as the score for that one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give a score, but all right. I guess all consensus Chiefs win. Moving on to the other AFC game, we got the Bills versus the Ravens. The game I'm personally excited about. Shout out to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, most importantly, because he got his first playoff win, and so did Josh Allen. Right, that was his first playoff win.
Yep.
Okay, so they both got their first playoff wins. That's great. I was gonna say Ravens, but then I figured out that the weather might be a factor here. Might be some snow in Buffalo, correct?
Yes.
It's looking
Yes.
like
So
it.
I think that's going to be a game changer. I don't know. I think again, minor opinion here, who doesn't know much about football. I'm going to go with the Bills here, but it could go either way. It's a coin toss. So the weather is actually going to be a factor, especially for Lamar and the Ravens, who are predominantly a running game. And because Josh Allen and the Bills have more experience in that field, I just think they're going to win for reasons that you guys are going to explain better than I am right now. They both kind of have some momentum going with them, but they both also had wins where they kind of went to the wire a little bit. So I wouldn't say that either team has like a bit more momentum than the other, but I just feel more comfortable saying that the Bills are going to win this. But I expect a close game, I think.
Yeah. I think this is honestly gonna be the best game of the week. These teams are so evenly matched. Both teams, yeah, they won their last week's games, but I didn't think particularly either one looked good. The Ravens didn't look good. Lamar didn't look good throwing the ball. He ran the ball because he had a lot of big openings, but I do think the Bills are going to close some of those openings. I don't think he's going to have one of those 50-yard runs this game. So that's going to be interesting to see. The Bills almost gave it away at the end of that Colts game with Josh Allen almost fumbling and giving away that game, but I think it's gonna be a good game. The snow is gonna play a really big factor. It's gonna be a lot of running the ball, which I think slightly favors the Ravens because their whole offense is based on running the ball. That's why I have them winning this game. Very by a field goal. I have them winning by a field goal. At the end of the day, I trust Lamar Jackson more than I trust Josh Allen when it comes to a snow game and running the ball, because it's not gonna be much throwing the ball because it depends how much it snows. If it's like light snow, then maybe I give the slight edge to Josh Allen. But if it's heavy snow, which it possibly could be in Buffalo, I'm gonna give the edge to to Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen.
Right, and the snow factor will be key because depending on how much snow, that's going to affect precipitation. That's going to affect how the ball is going to feel for both quarterbacks when they drop back, how they feel it, etc. Like that, the ball is a key thing. A lot of people don't really realize that, but like a quarterback's feel of the ball is extremely important. Like QBs want the football to feel a specific way when it gets snapped to them. That is an actual thing. That happens. I got the Baltimore Ravens with this one simply because of the fact that the Buffalo Bills rushing defense is of a massive concern. They allowed 163 rushing yards against the Colts last week. And funny enough, there were 6.5 tackles for loss in that game. So the fact that they had 6.5 tackles for loss and the Colts still gashed them for 160, there were situational choices mistakes that the Colts made that ultimately gave the Bills the victory. A different play call here, a different luck here, maybe a different quarterback, but a play or two here there literally knocks the Bills out and turns them from Super Bowl contender to playoff disappointment. uh, with Lamar Jackson, like I definitely understand Dame's point. Like the passing wasn't there last week, but my thing for that is, I think the Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman, I got to give him a lot of credit. He didn't try to force Lamar to throw the ball too much like he did last year in the playoffs against Tennessee. He kept it so, okay, Lamar, you know what? If we got to go run first on these plays, that's what we're gonna do. And you need to, as a coach, while you help your players, you also need to play to their strengths. They know that option game, having Lamar try to gash the defense, that's one of the ways that will actually open up the passing game. And it's not just Lamar, who 136 rushing yards against Tennessee last week. It's Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards averaged 5 yards a carry this season. Dobbins averaged 6 yards a carry this season, both on well over 130 carries each. Like, that is not a small sample size. That is a legitimate rushing attack, three-headed rushing attack that the Ravens had, which if it was only Lamar or if he was banged up and it was only Dobbins or Edwards, I would give the Bills the edge here, but it's too much on the ground that the Bills have to try to maintain. You got to deal with the power of Dobbins, Edwards, who he goes up the middle sometimes, and then Lamar, because of them, it's going to allow him to kind of pop the ball outside. He could go on these stretch runs. Like, maybe he won't get that 50-yard run. I agree with that part, Dame, but he could gash them at like 10, 15, 20 at a time. And at the end of the day, that's going to tire out the defense. The offense will keep it close. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs has been great this year, but I just have the Bills coming up short here because of that. I got a 28-24 final score in favor of the Ravens.
Nice. Yeah, maybe I'll be right again. Who knows? But I prefer a Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes AFC final, even though Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs will probably win by a lot. That's just me. Moving on to the NFC, we'll start off with the Packers versus the Rams. I'm gonna go with the Packers on this one. I don't know how Aaron Donald will be because I think defense will be key, especially for the Rams if they want to win this game. But you don't know the status of Aaron Donald. I think he'll play, but I don't know how effective he'll be, especially after the injury. Jared Goff, again, that thumb surgery really effed it up for him. As if we can't trust Goff enough, he's already now he has to deal with the thumb surgery against the Packers, against one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So, I mean, again, it's Aaron Rodgers as well as one of the most talented quarterbacks, and I think he's skilled enough to, kind of skirt around whatever defense is around him. So, I just think the Packers are going to win this. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to just do Aaron Rodgers things, and then hopefully this will be a step towards Rodgers and Mahomes in the Super Bowl final. But
that's
no
the dream
spoilers.
matchup.
Yep, no spoilers. But I got the Packers being the Rams here.
I had the Packers being the Rams too. I think this is gonna be the one real blowout of this week. Reason being is because, like you said, Jared Goff is not 100%. What we saw him last week, he didn't look great. Obviously, their running game and defense is really what won them that game. It wasn't Jared Goff. I don't think a week time is going to really help that thumb. And not to mention that they're playing in Lambeau Field, which is supposed to be sub freezing temperatures this weekend. So that's not going to help at all. The Packers, they came off a bye. They're not like the Chiefs where they had 2 weeks off, so they only had one. So they're really well rested. Something that's going to be, although I do think it's going to be a blow, as I have it 34-13. Something that, for me, is going to be fun to watch is going to be Jalen Ramsey versus Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Who I think is the best corner in the league and the best wide receiver in the league this year, at least. So, although the game might not be that interesting, I think that matchup is going to be something fun to watch for those people who don't find this game that fun. And if it is going to be a blowout, yeah. Like Chris said, another step towards the dream matchup.
Yeah. So I'm going to complete our little hat trick here. I got the Packers winning. I do have a double-digit final as well, but I don't have it as big as Dame's. I got it around like a 31-20, maybe a 31-17 type score. Like you guys said, the injuries to Goff and Darnold are the two biggest ones here. Like Sean McVay, he's not – the thing is, this was a great line I heard this week. Sean McVay is not scheming against Matt LaFleur, the Green Bay Packers head coach. He's scheming against Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's just one of those guys that you stare at him on the other side of the field, like you just think like, oh, please let me just have something decent for this guy today. And Aaron Donald being hurt makes a difference because not only like Aaron Donald's ability to wreck a game is well known, like that cannot be overstated, but him, even the slightest bit hampered, will allow Rodgers a little bit more time in the pocket here and there, will allow him to scramble out the pocket here and there, maybe for like 5-6 yard gains to make moves to get his receivers open. And Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, Jamal Williams, like, this is the best running back core the Packers have had behind Aaron Rodgers. I think you could argue his entire career, maybe save for the Super Bowl run they went on when they actually won it. But this is the best crew of running backs he's had. And it's on these guys to have a good game. They've played inconsistent at times, which has been part of the reason the few times the Packers have lost, they didn't get much from the running game. So they need to be key here. My only concern is honestly, what will the Rams rushing attack do to the Packers defense? The Packers, these last few weeks, they showed that they could defend the run at least a little bit better than they did last year, which is key. If they can prevent Akers from doing really well, which they have the chance to do. So while Akers had an amazing playoff game last week and he's had some great games this season, if you look back at the regular season, early on in the year, in the first half of the season, he had 4 games where he averaged under 4 yards per carry. If they can limit him to under 4 yards a carry, they will win this game by a long shot, because if the rushing attack isn't doing a lot to them, the defense stays fresh. They won't be on the field as much longer, and that's going to be a key thing. And like you guys said, the weather, if Aaron Rodgers comes out, I'm telling you right now, if Aaron Rodgers comes out in like that long sleeve turtleneck that he wears in those cold games, I would hammer the Packers if I was a betting man on that. Not telling y'all to bet, be wise with your money, but I would hammer that, whatever the over would be for the Packers, because man, he just plays at a different level when he's got that on. But in all seriousness, this is going to be a great game. We're going to get some great moments. I'm with Dame. Jalen Ramsey against Devontae is going to be interesting, because while Devontae Adams, he's big like DK Metcalf has been this season, like he's tall like him, he's a lot quicker and shiftier than DK Metcalf. And Ken Ramsey, Ramsey is good with those bigger receivers at shadowing them because he's usually faster and shiftier, and he can get the small guys as well if he's at the same speed as them, save for like a Tyreek Hill. Devontae Adams is big. He can box guys out, and he's very shifty. I'm really interested to see that matchup. I think Devontae will get the better here and there, and I think that'll play a part in the difference. I got the Packers taking this to the NFC Championship game.
Leads us to our last divisional round game, which we got the Saints versus the Bucks. Gentlemen, I would love for the Saints to win this game. However, I don't think they're going to win this game. I hope I'm wrong. I really do, but I see the Bucks winning this. They just have a lot of momentum on their side. Drew Brees' record against Brady in the regular season is apparently it's a winning record. That doesn't matter here, because now we're in the playoffs and Brady turns shit up, and I think he has a lot of offensive weapons now, and because the Bucks they're riding a momentum wave right now. I don't know. I think they're going to pull this off. I don't know how Drew Brees is going to do against the Bucks now, because the Saints played the Bears, which was essentially as much of a bye as you can get while playing an opponent, in my opinion. So, now you got to play against the Bucks. I would love to say Kamara is going to have a great game, and Michael Thomas is back, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I could see this being a close game. I think it's going to be up to the team's defense, because I think both teams' offense is going to carry through. Mike Evans and Godwin and Gronk, I think they'll pull up.
AB.
AB as well, and AB's playing better. But of course, Kamara, and especially with the time off that Kamara's had, so I think he's had enough time to kind of, get into the groove maybe, but we'll see. And of course, with Michael Thomas back, it's huge, but I just think the Bucks take this in a close game, and I hope it'll be a good game at least.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think, kind of like Dame said, I think the two games that a lot of people are going to circle to hopefully be close will be that Ravens-Bills game, and I think this one as well, because of the two matchups we saw during the regular season. And that's ultimately why, Chris, I'm actually going to be on your side here. I'm going with Tampa, because I don't have the stat. I wish I did. But how often does a team beat another team 3 times in one season? Like, it is very difficult to beat a team twice, granted, in the 2 divisional matchups these two had. Now imagine a third time. Like, that's my thing, because while stats can tell us a story, I like, in certain situations, you got to look at the players, you got to look at the people, you got to look at the emotions. I do not see Brady allowing them to fall to the Saints for a third time in the same year. I just don't see that. And the offense has clicked. Like, even if they've had some games where they didn't always look the best, like that Washington football team game, they look better. And the connection and chemistry with AB is there. Gronk is doing his thing. slowly but surely, Brady is more confident with Godwin and Evans. Evans played hurt against Washington. Like, I think he deserves some credit there, and he wasn't a liability out there. Like, that offense deserves a lot of credit for Tampa, and I think defensively, like, the defense for them, they've been up and down this year. They're kind of underrated. They are kind of underrated. Like, Devin White's a good player. Sean Murphy-Bunting, Anton Winfield Jr., like Levante David, the veteran. There are a couple of sneaky pieces on that defense that they can make a play or two here and there. I have this as a close game. I have like around a 31-28 final score for Tampa. I just cannot see the Saints winning because at the end of the day, we saw it in the Bears game. You alluded to this, Chris. Drew Brees is no longer going to be the reason the Saints team wins any more games this year. He will be the detriment that costs them games. He's just not the same anymore. That Bears game proved it once and for all. He's not the same at all. And we talked about, we tried seeing where Brady regressed this year. Brees has regressed, man. Like, it's not great. So I have Tampa winning.
And no Taysom Hill, I think.
Oh,
Is
really?
he? I heard he missed practice.
Oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe that could go work in their benefit because sometimes the play calls for him are wild. Anyways, I'm gonna pull a Chris here and not go with the Bucks. I'm gonna go with the Saints here. Yeah, like you guys, like Jurgen said, this is the third time they're playing, and the Saints are 2-0. It's really, really, really hard to beat a team 3 times in one season, especially when the other team is as good as the Bucks are. But I don't know. I just have a feeling that in New Orleans, that Tom Brady is going to feel a lot of pressure from that defense. They're going to blitz him a lot, and it's going to be really hard for him to get a rhythm going. I think he's going to be hit a lot. So, and then Saints, I don't know. They just have to get over these playoff demons and win a game at home. The Bears, I'm not going to count that. Like, that's a regular season snooze. But they're really going to have to come out and play this game. Being at home, of course, helps. I think if it was in Tampa, I probably would have went the other way. But because it's in New Orleans and Tom Brady has had last time he played in New Orleans, I think they got smacked like 38-3,
Yeah,
something like that. It was really bad. I don't think it's gonna be that bad. I have it as 27-20. I think it's gonna be one of the best games of the week. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Saints. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks win.
Okay.
Can we really trust the Saints in the playoffs?
I can't, but it's just a hunch.
By the way, Taysom Hill did miss practice the last 2 days. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. And if Drew Brees is kind of sus, which I mean, there's a good chance of that. I mean, I don't know how the Saints kind of generate offense.
They didn't have to deal with firepower last week too. By the way, like that Bears defense was legit, but that Bears offense, like, come on, Mitch Trubisky, seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, and because then I think you're just gonna have to ask too much of Alvin Kamara in terms of just the running game. If Drew Brees is kind of just slacking, but we'll see. We'll see. So, yeah, Dame and Jerk basically have the Chiefs and the Ravens playing against each other in the AFC chip.
yep.
I have the Chiefs and the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the NFC, we have the Packers versus the Bucks, me and Jurgen, and then Damon has the Packers versus the Saints, which either way, I think will be a great game because you'll have a battle. I mean, not really because Drew Brees, you're right, has regressed. But I mean,
Rodgers is going to carve up that defense.
Yeah,
oh, man.
But I guess it's nice to see like these old timers, excluding Rodgers because I just think Rodgers is just a goat.
Rodgers deserves it.
Yeah,
He deserves
yeah.
another one.
Well, I mean, Mahomes versus Rodgers, we're getting there.
That'll be a conversation for another day, by the way. If the Packers don't win this year or next year, I'm going to rip that organization.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's it for this week, guys. Good episode. Great news to talk about. Very interesting news. I think we'll be back next week as we kind of analyze the divisional round games, and then we'll predict the championship round games of each conference, of course. And then who knows? Maybe there'll be more NBA news. Maybe there'll be more hockey news now that the season has started.
Woohoo!
Jurgen, I know you're happy about that.
Yes. Hockey's here, y'all.
A lot of sports happening. A lot of sports occurring. But yeah, that's it for this week, guys. Thank you for joining me, people. Thank you for listening. Wear a mask, of course. Be safe. And yeah, take care. Pieces. Did I say pieces?
Goodbye.
Peace.